Are you worried about Congress playing politics with the raising of the debt ceiling? What would this do to Berkshire Hathaway stock and to the overall economy?
You mean if they didn't raise it?
If they didn't raise it.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it would probably be the most asinine, act that Congress which ever performed. At one time in Indiana, back in the 1890s, I think they passed a bill. I know it was introduced. You can look it up on a search engine. They passed a bill to change the value of pi, the mathematical term pi, to an even 3, because they said it would be easier for the school children to work with. Well, that's the only bill I can think of that would give competition to a refusal to raise the debt ceiling. I mean, it's extraordinary. I mean, it really is extraordinary that with our deficit running, well over $100 billion a month, and all kinds of items that can be changed. I mean, having a debt ceiling to start with is a mistake. I mean, it doesn't. The United States of 2011 has a different debt capacity than the United States of 1911, and it's going to be a growing country, and we're going to have a growing debt capacity. That doesn't mean I think it's a great idea at all to have debt growing as a percentage of GDP, but to stick debt ceilings on so that these games get played and all the time that gets wasted and everything, and the amount of number of silly statements that you hear, and it just seems such a waste of time for a country that's got a lot of things to do. But in the end, they won't, in my view. There's no chance that they don't increase the debt ceiling, and I would love to see them, I'd love to see them eliminate the idea, because it results in these periodic kind of stalemate operations where everybody uses it for posturing purposes and everything of the sort. But the United States is not going to have a debt crisis of any kind as long as we keep issuing our notes in our own currency. The difference between being able to borrow in your own currency and having to borrow in another currency is night and day. The only thing we have to worry about is the printing press and inflation. And if you're a member of the European Monetary Union, you have to worry about, you can't print money. You can go and get your co-members to try and help you out. But giving up the right to issue debt in your own currency is a huge step, and the United States has not done it. I don't know whether we've ever issued U.S. bonds in any other currency, but we certainly haven't made a habit of it. And the Japanese, incidentally, which have a very high ratio of debt to GDP, also have consistently borrowed in their own currency. And believe me, when it's time to pay somebody back, and you have a choice of paying, and you're forced to pay in somebody else's currency versus paying in your own, it's an entirely different proposition. Matter of fact, Charlie and I, we were trying to buy that bank back in
Chicago.
Yeah, in Chicago in the late 1960s. And this was a time of really tight money, and tight money was different then than tight money is today. I mean, tight money meant no money. And we wanted to buy this bank, and they wanted, the only place we could find some money, I think, was in Kuwait in dinars, wasn't it?
Yeah, Kuwait dinars.
Yeah, and I thought to myself, and Charlie concurred, who the hell knew what they were going to say the value of the dinar was when we went to pay it back? I mean, it was not something over which we had a lot of control. So we decided not to borrow the money in dinars, even though I kind of wish we'd bought the bank. But, Charlie, have you got anything to say on that?
No. I do think, I remember an era when we had a bipartisan foreign policy and all that, and I liked that era. And that was the Marshall Plan and a lot of wonderful constructive things were done. And they were generous things. Now it seems to me that both parties are trying to compete to see who can be the most stupid. And they keep topping one another. Yeah.
You can tell Charlie is a fellow who's always filed an accurate income tax form. He's not worried. Number 7.
100 years from now, Warren and Charlie, what would each of you like to be remembered for?
Old age.
Yeah, I've heard Warren say that what he once said at his funeral is, "That's the oldest looking corpse I ever saw." I have a different saying that came down from one of my great-grandfathers, and I think he wanted to be remembered for a fortune fairly won and wisely used. That's a pretty good system.
Yeah, I would. If you really ask me, I'd probably like teacher. I enjoy teaching a lot. And some people think I do a little too much of the didactic stuff, but I like students coming and I benefited by some fabulous teachers, starting with my dad, but going on to Ben Graham, going on to Tom Murphy. I mean, there are lots of great teachers. So I would say that. I might point out that on Wilt Chamberlain's gravestone, I think it says, "At last I sleep alone," which.
Yeah.
Well, we have some people from Kansas here anyway. Okay, Becky.
Charlie, I got several variations of this question, but this one comes from Peter Kerr in Waterloo, Canada. He says, "Could you please let us know a couple of the most important things you learned during the last year?"
I'll let Charlie go first.
Well, I hate to admit this because I've ignored high tech all my life, but I actually read that book In the Plex about Google, and I found it a very interesting book. And so here I am at my advanced age, and I find it interesting the way people have created these engineering cultures, which are quite peculiar and different from most of what we have at Berkshire. And will I ever make any use of this? I doubt it, but I certainly enjoyed learning it. And if I enjoy learning it, I regard it as important, because I think that's what you're here for, is to go to bed every night a little wiser than you were when you got up.
I'm just trying to hold my own, actually. No, what I learned in the last year is that I'm going to have Charlie write the next press release.
Warren, I approved that damn press release with no objections. The Berkshire shareholders are going to be in terrible trouble if they're relying on me to fix your errors.
Okay, let's go to number 11.
Yeah.
Mr. Buffett, hope you enjoyed your first trip to India.
I sure did.
Here's my question. One of the most important things that drive people are incentives. But if you live in a rich society, it's very hard to get your kids to work hard and reach their full potential because they just don't need to. So if you or Charlie decide to have a kid in the next 5 years,
There'll be a star in the east.
It will take more than a decision.
how would you incentivize him or her?
I thought you were going to say, how would you? No, it's a good question. I apologize for interrupting.
How would you incentivize him or her to compete against the hungry and highly motivated kids from emerging markets like China, Brazil, Russia, or India?
Yeah, I think certainly that if you are very rich and you bring up your kids to think that they are more important in society, or that they have some special privilege simply because they came out of the right womb, that's just a terrible mistake. But Charlie has raised 8 children that I know quite well, most of them, and I don't think any of them have that sense. But if you really are going to raise your kids to think that other people should do all the work for them, and that they will be entitled to sit around and fan themselves for the rest of their lives, I mean, you will probably not get a good result. Charlie's been rich most of the time when many of his kids were growing up. Some of his kids were growing up. I've been rich while my kids were certainly when they got into high school and college. But I certainly didn't want to give them the idea that they were special just because their parents were rich. And I don't think you necessarily have to get a bad result or have children that don't have any incentives simply because their parents are rich. The one thing I don't think you want to give them an incentive to do is try and outdo their parents at what their parents happen to be good at. I don't think that makes sense, whether you're a professional athlete or a rich person or whatever it may be, a great novelist, or you name it. But I really think if you're rich and your kids turn out to have no incentives, I don't think you should point at them. I think you should probably point at yourself. Charlie?
Well, I don't think you can raise children in an affluent family and have them love working 60 hours a week in the hot sun digging fence post holes or something. That's not going to work. So to some extent you are destroying certain kinds of incentives. And my advice to you is to lose your fight as gracefully as you can.
I'm not sure if you're poor, if you can get your kids to love the idea of working 60 hours a week. They may have to, but
the kids that really get interested in something will work no matter how rich they are. But it's rare to have an Ajit-like intensity of interest. If you were a proctologist, you might not like your day as it went on and on.
I think we better move along. Becky?